Hey marketers, my name is Annelle Barnett and I am the founder and CEO of Marketing Mob. At Marketing Mob, we connect companies with talented marketers and we connect marketers with careers, education, and collaboration. And it is in the spirit that we created Marketing Mob Talks. A few things to note before we get started. Marketing Mob Talks takes place on the second Tuesday of every month at 2 o'clock Eastern Time. Our next talks is on February 13th. We record all of the sessions, so if you're unable to attend one of the sessions, we will send that back out to you after this webinar is over. We are not doing Q&A today, so at the end of each of the presenters' presentations, they have their contact information, so feel free to reach out to them directly if you have questions, or you can email me at abarnett@marketing-mob.com. We have an announcement to make. We have created a Marketing Mob Slack channel. So this is basically a community for marketers. We want you to have the opportunity to be able to collaborate with your peers and share experiences and request feedback. We've added a book club and a podcast share, and then we'll also be posting about events and education. The Slack channel is marketing-mob.slack.com. Unfortunately, with Slack, you can't just join a channel. So if you email me, again, at abarnett@marketing-mob.com, then I'll send you an invitation and you can join. You can also invite your friends and colleagues that you think might benefit from this community inside the actual channel. We're really excited about this and hope that you find some benefit in it as well. So we have a great lineup of speakers here today. The first one is Ivy Garcia, and she's the co-founder of BrandFit Consulting. At BrandFit, they help companies cultivate vital brand stories based on human-centric insights and the principles of service design. Ivy is an award-winning content strategist with a portfolio of engagements that include Coca-Cola, Johnson & Johnson, HBO, Newell Rubbermaid, Procter & Gamble, and AMC. I'm going to turn the controls over to Ivy now, and she will get started.
Yep. Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, Annelle. So today we're going to be talking about rethinking the customer journey. Big topic in our industry, and I think it has been for a while. As Annelle said, I'm a content marketer, content strategist, writer at heart. So I really feel pretty passionately about this subject. What is on the screen now is what we kind of grew up with in marketing, right? The traditional funnel. And that was when, a long time ago, people had lots and lots of options. And at the top of the funnel, the widest part, they had a lot of brand choices. And so they would enter that consideration set and then marketing would happen. And as they worked through the funnel, they would methodically narrow down those choices to make a purchase. We didn't talk much about loyalty back then. It was kind of just assumed that once the purchase was made, the conversion happened, and that it kept happening. There was a sense of loyalty. Things changed pretty dramatically in the last 15 years. And in 2009, McKinsey really evolved that model with what they called the loyalty loop. So this is really where we're starting to look at the funnel process, the decision-making process as a nonlinear one. And so in the active evaluation stage, it's really where we're gathering information. And this is where the internet happened and choice really exploded. And so you'll see in a lot of categories during this time, and even now, of course, especially verticals like auto and home buying and beauty, that a lot of people are making 90% of their research decisions before they actually even engage with the brand. So it's not the brand or the marketer telling you about their product. You're hearing it in lots of different ways in lots of different places. And so what McKinsey did in 2009, which is really important here, is the addition of the loyalty loop. Really, it's about how to engage your customer once they have made the purchase and not assume that you're locked in for life, if you will, right? You have to keep engaging them and keep showing up. And so that's really where we are now, except that that's gotten even more complicated. So the decisions that we are asking ourselves, the questions that we are asking ourselves, the decisions that we have to make whenever we look at a consumer decision funnel is still the same. That hasn't changed, right? As marketers, we're trying to figure out, what am I trying to achieve? What are my goals? Who am I speaking with? Who am I speaking to? That's where our persona development comes in. How do I reach them? Where do I reach them? Obviously, this is more complicated because there are more options. What do I want them to do, right? What's the behavior that I want to elicit? How do I get them to do it? And how do I measure success? So none of that has changed. The problem here, and this is a very nuanced problem, I think, is that we're not asking a very particular thing. And that is, how do I fit into their story? So as marketers, I think one of the things that sometimes trips us up is that we are coming at this relationship, this journey with our ego in mind, right? So it's our product, it's what we need to do, it's what we need to sell, it's who we need to reach. But we actually really need to flip that and think about the consumer in a new way, right? So how do I provide value? How do I fit into their story? Everyone has a story. It's why I drive a BMW instead of a Subaru. It's why I used to drive a Subaru. It's why I shop at Anthropologie. It's 1,000 different decisions every day because it fits into the story of who I think that I am. And if you, for certain products, especially, and I'll stick with the home buying space because that's actually an example we're going to look at. You are looking at a market of anyone who potentially can buy a house, right? So you're looking at 22 to 72, let's say. There isn't just one story. And for a product like that or a vertical, the story changes all the time. So you have a ton of different consumers that you're trying to reach. And because it's a non-linear journey, you have to, as a marketer, figure out how to reach them in lots of different ways, lots of different times that depend on where they are in their emotional and rational consideration. So when you blow up the funnel and you start to develop these journeys, it can get very complicated. This slide is a little blurry, and that's okay because the point of this slide is really that it's too complicated. It's very beautiful to look at, and this is what's happening a lot, or has happened, I think, in the last couple of years at agencies and in marketing, is as we respect how complicated coming up with these journeys are, we're complicating the process ourselves by creating assets or documents that, that aren't easily socialized across your marketing teams. So if it's not socialized, you can't activate your strategy really well. So while this document is beautiful, and if you look online for customer journey templates, you're going to see a lot of beautiful stuff. You have to keep it simple. So as the opportunities, I'm sorry, let me step back. As the questions and the journey becomes more sophisticated because of all the channels, all the touch points, all the technology, all the noise, we actually have to simplify our process. So what I would advocate is that you start with story. This is not a beautiful slide. That's a beautiful slide. This is not so beautiful, but what it is the beginning of a process where you are really building out a very nuanced look at your consumers and where they are at every single touch point that they might come in contact with you, right? And the other thing that this slide really shows too is it asks the questions that a lot of marketers, we don't want to ask ourselves. The other thing with customer journey mapping is that when we sort of do it through the lens of our brand ego, we only look at the positive questions. We also have to look at the negative ones too, so we can address them, right? It's just like personal relationships. So from a storytelling standpoint, which should take a lot of time, It should have a lot of people throwing a lot of holes at it, and right? Make sure that it really makes sense. Then you can start to build out more thoughtful journeys by channel, right? So instead of the funnel where we're considering just sort of 1 or 2 journeys, or even if we diversify it into 10, we have to make sure that we are staying true to the channel and the platform. And that might call for multiple exercises and multiple maps. And so that's really what this is representative of. And this could take an hour to go through, but the point of this one is that it captures all the rules, it captures the triggers, it captures the journey points, it captures the different audiences, and it captures a decision tree that tells us what they're going to do. And if they do this, yes, then we know this. If they do this, no, that's fine. We've asked the question and we can anticipate that action so we can address it. And then you need to really follow that through with your creative. So this is just simply an expression and a marketing automation email program that we developed for a home buyer and a home buyer client. And this is the outcome of what you just saw. This is an email journey map, and this is the expression of that. And so it's really looking at, you know, how can I talk to different audiences in different ways without reinventing the wheel every time. So this is one template. It captures a lot of decisions that, that we've mapped out, but there's different audiences. So this would be a young married couple with children, and this would be empty nesters. But we've allowed a simplification of the expression of it, the actual creative, the brand message, because we know how to populate it on the back end with a really robust content strategy that is true to our customer journey. This is just another expression of that, which would be a conversion point, really, a contact us form that we were able to make even longer and asked more questions because it was authentic to who we were trying to reach. And that's really what I wanted to say, which is, you know, things are complicated out there. People have a lot of choices, and they're in control. So we need to anticipate that and make sure that while our marketing approach gets more sophisticated to match their sophistication, that we keep the process simple. So thank you so much. All right.
Thanks, Ivy.
Sure.
That was such a great conversation. It's such a hot topic right now, and oh shoot, hold on, sorry, lost my screen.
Now we get to see the full Nell.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Yeah, I could definitely talk all day about it. So, you know, it is really at the heart of a lot of what we do. All right.
All right, sorry, technical difficulties. Okay, so anyway, yeah, it's such a hot topic, and I think a lot of people don't even know where to start and are very confused with the complexity. So I appreciate you laying that out for the audience.
Absolutely,
again,
thank you.
Yeah, of course. Again, if you want to reach out, if you have questions for Ivy, you can reach out to her at ivy@brandfitconsulting.com.
Yes, we all have coffee.
Yes, exactly. Okay, and so our next presenter is Joe Kaufman. He is the CEO and founder of Agency Sparks. Joe is a connector of people. After spending 6 years in agency life, he recognized a gap in the market and founded Agency Sparks in 2014. Agency Sparks helps brands and agencies connect with each other. So I'm going to turn the controls over to him.
Great. Thank you, Anel.
You're welcome.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me, Anel, and Marketing Mob. I wrote in the chat room in the comments, I welcome your questions during my discussion, but hecklers will be delivered to the pit of misery. So I'm excited to talk to you all about connecting brands and agencies together. That's something that I'm very passionate about. As Anel kind of mentioned in my introduction, I've always been a connector of people. There are actually 3 marriages that have resulted from me introducing the couple to each other. And so I kind of leveraged that skill into building a company, Agency Sparks. So let me jump in here. I'm not sure if I have controls, Anel, or not.
Yeah, you do. You're good.
Oh, great. Okay, so I'll jump in a little bit more about what Agency Sparks does, but I want to frame the discussion a little bit with you with the situation and the status quo as it stands today. So one of the first things I wanted to point out is that big brands are abandoning the agency of record model. They're basically looking for specialists who can solve specific needs versus having one agency that can do everything for them. And the benefit of specialists is that they're very good at their discipline. The downside to a specialist is that when you have an agency of record, there's only one neck to choke if something goes wrong or if there's something that you don't like. So the other reality today is that the new chief marketing officer, in addition to having to become a technologist and not just a marketer, is that they're like the conductor of the symphony. Or actually, I think maybe even a better analogy would be the leader of the jazz quartet. And their job is to make sure that all of the different players within the quartet are playing in harmony, in unison. So that's sort of the way the world is changing in terms of brand and agency relationships. And so, as I mentioned, brands really struggle to find the right marketing agencies for their needs. Agencies really struggle to find the right brands to be clients. And so Agency Sparks exists as the matchmaker bridging that gap between brands and agencies. So because we're matchmakers and because Valentine's Day is coming up and it's a very important holiday to any matchmaker, we shot this little video to kind of, well, you'll see, it's a little bit of a spoof of the dating services out there like eHarmony and Match.com, et cetera. So I'm gonna play the video, hopefully it plays okay, and then we can talk about it.
They helped me find my perfect match. It was love at first sight.
There's plenty of fish in the sea, but in no time, they brought me the right catch.
I had a list of non-negotiables, and they found me a partner that exceeded all of my expectations.
I never knew a connection could be this good, this quick.
I was swept off my feet like a fairy tale princess.
This will be an everlasting love.
Hey, princess. I think I was supposed to have that line.
They made sure it was the perfect fit.
A perfect fit.
Hashtag true love.
Sparks flew.
Agency Sparks knew we were meant to be together.
Agency Sparks listened to my needs and made the perfect agency match.
Agency Sparks connected me with a perfect marketing agency for my needs.
I was able to find the perfect agency partner through Agency Sparks.
Thanks, 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 Agency Sparks.
So that was a lot of fun for us to shoot. We, let me make sure I can get to the next slide here. It was a lot of fun to shoot. We actually, you saw the little disclaimer that said not actors, actual clients. We actually got together a bunch of clients in the room that we actually helped connect their brand with an agency partner of some kind. So what the people you saw in the video were, in order, the marketing directors of Magic Leap down in Florida, Piedmont Healthcare, ADAC, Floor & Decor, and Georgia Pacific Professional. And we had a lot of fun shooting that. It's amazing what some really good Thai food and a couple of drinks will do for putting together a really good quality video. But anyway, and also I saw a question from Lou in the chat, which I'll address. He had asked the question, dealing with lots of different agencies can lead to problems with consistent branding, right? And I'll address that in a minute with you. But as mentioned, we exist to connect brands and marketing agencies together. So brands often view us as a search consultant. A search consultant is a company that brands will hire to run an RFP process, request for proposal process, find the right agencies, and then bring them into the room, and then the client will decide which one they like the best. So that's, brands often look at us like that. Agencies look at us as an extension of their business development efforts. So we help those agencies find clients that are a good fit. And we're typically paid by the agency to make those connections. So we live in the middle between the brand and the agency. And so we see, because we live in that middle, we understand what it takes to make a good match. And so I'll talk about 3 things that we do to help make a good match and sort of parts of our process and sort of some of the services that we offer. And then I'm going to go into some tips that'll help you when looking for your agency partners. So the first is the agency vetting process. We call it our marketing readiness report. And as part of this process, we actually have conversations with current clients of the agency to understand what they like and don't like about working with the agency. We have conversations with past clients who no longer work with the agency to understand what they liked initially, but also why did they leave. And then we have conversations with with clients that did not select the agency in a competitive process. And those are often very, very interesting. And we match those sets of conversations with interviews of the senior leadership team within the agency to just understand where there are discrepancies or synergies or parallels between the different perspectives. How self-aware is the agency? So as you're thinking about an agency that might be a good fit for you, I would encourage you to consider talking to their clients to understand what they really believe, and then also talk to the key people in the agency, obviously. The second thing that we do is where we actually outreach on behalf of agencies to brands that might be a good fit. And so there are a lot of different ways we can do this, but I won't go into great detail here. I want to get to the tips. And then the third is pitch consulting. So if one of the agencies gets into a situation with a really big opportunity with a really big client and they don't really know how to navigate that, we can help them with that process, which is the pitch consulting piece of our business. Before I jump into, well, I'm going to skip through this slide, which all this is this kind of summarizes what I just talked about in terms of the value of what we provide and uncovering the truth and that leading to new business for agencies. I want to get to the tips about how to make a match, but before that, I want to answer Lou's question, which was that dealing with a lot of different agencies can lead to problems with consistency and branding. And it could. I think that as the conductor, it's your job to be the brand defender. It's your job to make sure that all of the agencies are following your guidelines. And often what you'll find is that there's a lead agency who is responsible for the brand. And then there may be some other agencies that are specialists that help with specific pieces. So let me give you an example. You may hire a brand agency that owns your brand. And then you may have an email marketing agency that's focused on email. You may have a social media agency focused on social, or a mobile agency focused on mobile, or a multicultural agency focused on that audience. I think it's incumbent on you as the owner of the brand to make sure that all your agencies are playing nicely and keeping your brand consistent. I've seen a lot of really good examples of brands that have been able to accomplish that. So anyway, how to make a match? How do you make a good match with an agency? And this is how we do it. And then also you may look at some of these tips for your own usage. And there's sort of 3 steps that I'll cover, and I'll go into a little more detail about each of the 3 steps. The first is understanding the problems and issues, insights, and then making the introductions. And whether you work with Agency Sparks or somebody else to help you find the right introductions and make the right introductions, I would recommend they go through these 3 steps. So I'm going to talk first about understanding the things you need to understand. You need to understand your business needs. What are you trying to accomplish from a business standpoint? What are the KPIs, the key performance indicators for your business? Number 2, what's your desired outcome? What are you trying to accomplish from a marketing perspective? Marketing history, what's worked well for you and what hasn't worked well for you in the past? Don't, learn from your mistakes in the past. Agency relationships and agency history. So to Lou's question, how would the agency that you're considering bringing on board fit within the ecosystem of the other marketing efforts and agencies and partners that you have in place? The 5th is evaluation criteria. How are you going to determine which agency might be a good fit for you or which one won't? And then validate your understanding. Like, how can you make sure that you're communicating the needs that you have clearly to both the agency, and also how are they validating that they understand what you're trying to accomplish. So you can ask for that understanding. The next phase or step is insight. So understanding, making sure that this agency might be a good fit for you. What's an example of a past work? It could either be in the same industry or that you're in, or it could be in a different industry, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. Maybe you're trying to be different than the rest of your peers or competitors that you're marketing against. So you may want to look for somebody that has different experience or different industry than yours. And then what are some examples of some past really successful relationships? So it's not just about the work, but it's about the relationship with the brands that they're working with. And then the third is some ideas for some potential positive outcomes. Like, and this goes both ways. As a client, are you asking the agency for ideas about how they think this could go? But also, are you providing some examples of how you'd like to see it go in terms of outcomes? So these are insights that come from the understanding phase that you just completed. And then the last phase is the introduction. And this is sort of the simplest part of the three, but it's also an easy one to botch if you don't follow the steps. So getting permission from both parties. Is it okay to make this connection? Facilitating the warm connection, and that can happen via email or in person or phone or internet. There are lots of different ways to make the connection, but you want it to be a really warm and seamless connection. I often say, if you treat it as if you're the host of a dinner party at your home, if you act as if you're the host, then you'll probably will do it right. The third thing is to make sure that the connection is actually made. So once you make the connection, you want to validate that both parties are taking action to get together. And then the last thing is just making sure it was valuable for both parties. You want to provide value and ensure that both the agency and the brand feel that it was a good connection and that they got value from connecting with each other. So again, the 3 steps for matchmaking: understanding, insight, and introduction. I think that's it for me. There's my contact information. If you're interested in talking more, I'm happy to discuss any questions you might have or anything like that. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Anel. Thank you.
All right, awesome. Thanks so much. Again, this is Joe's contact information, or you can shoot me an email and I can forward that to him. I think it's always challenging finding an agency. I feel like they all say that they can do everything. And so if you don't know how to ask the right questions, then it's challenging to find one that fits your needs. So our next presenter is Chantel Cleve. She's the co-founder and CEO of Imagine Media Consulting, which is an Atlanta-based social media marketing firm. She was unable to be with us here today live, so we recorded her session. I'm hoping that you'll still have the same quality experience in a recorded version.
Hey there, I am so excited to be here and chat with you all a little bit about the value of thought leadership on social media. We get so many questions on, does it work for B2B? Does it work for B2C? How can we track success? And so I know you guys are all probably well-versed marketers, so I'll skip over some of the brief stuff or just the basics, but it hopefully will be a good refresher for you guys as well. And then I want to provide some insight and some thoughts and tips and tricks to ramp up your social media presence for your company or the company you work at. So let's just dive right in. I want to start with some trends and consumer expectations. And so focusing on the millennial buyer, they are so much more educated, one, before they make a purchasing decision, but also before they join a company. So to hit on the B2B side, especially social media just plays such a big part in that piece. They're going to be looking for your brand and your company and the company you work at on these social sites instead of just, relying on the Glassdoors out there. Also, Instagram stories is such a huge trend these days and something that we've been able to capitalize on. It's a way to show the behind the scenes and your culture and fun snippets of information. And then of course, video. You guys all know video is certainly taking over, especially live video. So I'm excited to be on this webinar and live with you guys as well. Messaging apps, and I think this hits on that consumer or customer service experience. People expect a response super quick. And so some of these great messaging apps have started to help with that. So what we're going to talk about today, just high-level strategy, just some quick overview notes, some proof of concept, and some things that we've learned along the way, and some case studies of what we've seen for brands that we've worked with, and then how to stand out. So jumping into the strategy, just on social media, these hopefully will just be good refreshers for everyone, but frequency. So what we find most successful on Facebook is 3 to 5 times per week. And we say that with kind of a grain of salt. It's certainly pay to play. So we suggest boosting posts once they've reached over 1,000 impressions, all of your Facebook posts. So boosting those and putting an ad budget behind your Facebook. Instagram, 1 to 3 times per day is a great starting point. Instagram stories daily and frequently if possible. We'll skip to LinkedIn for now, but LinkedIn daily as well. And we also highly suggest creating some sort of gamification or encouraging your team and your colleagues to be sharing the posts that are shared on the business page to their personal LinkedIn pages as well. And that will help drive people back to the corporate page so that people know more about what you guys are doing. It establishes you and your company as thought leaders in the space. And then on Twitter, 3+ times per day would be the bare minimum there. As far as timing, so on Facebook, weekends between 1 and 4 are best. And also these are just, we're being a generalist in this conversation here. You'll want to study the analytics of what works best for you and your company or the company that you work at. Instagrams, Monday, early AM and late PM. Stories, Instagram stories, early evening. Whereas Twitter are weekdays between 9 and 3. And LinkedIn weekdays as well during the workday, noon and 5 p.m. So content planning. And so when you're building out your content strategy, you really want to hit on these 3 cylinders. The first being entertain and inspire. And a few ways to do that is think about the 80-20% rule. 80% of what you're posting should be entertaining and really inspiring your reader and listener and customer and follower, whereas 20% of what you're posting would actually be encouraging people with a call to action to take that next step. Maybe that is, head to our website to follow our newsletter, to learn more, or, fill out this form, come into our store. So 20% of the content that you're posting can be related to the brand, whereas 80% can be more entertaining and inspiring and thought leadership. And really think about, what does your customer or that future hire, what are they interested in reading, and what type of information would they like to consume? And really making sure you understand your audience. So developing those customer personas and learning, where do they shop and what do they eat and what are their purchasing habits, so that you can understand who you're talking to, so that the content you're planning actually does truly entertain and inspire them. That second cylinder, engage. So talking to your customers. I think the thing that oftentimes is forgotten is that social media is supposed to be social. It's supposed to be a platform where people can have conversations. So engage with them, ask for their opinion, give them an opportunity to be a part of your brand and your company. Polls do really well. Question-based content does really well. The more that they can feel like they're a part and they have a say in what you're doing online, or just join that conversation, is extremely important. And then the third cylinder, retain and promote. So how can you spread your message and tell your story? But be very authentic to you and your brand. I think it's very easy to have almost imposter syndrome of seeing all these other great brands out there and what they're doing and feeling like you have to do it all. But make sure that you're really authentic to your company and your brand, and not trying to be what everyone else is online, because people can weed through that very quickly. And respond quickly. So in order to retain your customer base and your followers and then promote continued engagement, you want to make sure you're responding quickly. So just a couple fun case studies and things that we've seen, especially on the B2B side. And I think, again, that's one of the bigger questions that we get asked, like, does this work? What is the impact? Why am I spending time on this? And so Secure America is one of our partners, and just the impact over a 6-month period we've seen is wonderful. And this is organic. Over, close to 700,000 impressions and close to 3,000 clicks to their website. And so we were able to drive their followers to their website to learn more, to get involved in their company, to read customer testimonials, or officer spotlights. So this company, they really showcase their culture through their social media pages, so that people are more, they trust them and they value their opinion, and so it leads them to the next step, which is to their website. Another really fun thing that we've seen, and just these small pieces of information. So with the Genesee General, they were trying to get a new client. We tweeted something really great on social media. It was picked up and retweeted by this huge industry-wide publication. And actually one of their potential prospects and customers saw that tweet on the larger publication and reached out and just said, hey, they noticed it and they acknowledged it. So that was an opportunity for them, the business owner, to reach out and say, hey, thanks for following along. Let's grab coffee. It was just another opportunity for them to jump in and share their level of experience and share some more about their business. So just these small things continue to add up. And sometimes I think it is difficult for people to articulate, I saw that one Facebook post and then that one tweet, I was served a newsletter, and that's why I reached out 5 months later. But all of these things serve as impressions for your company, and also opportunities for you to stay in front of people in a thoughtful way, so that when they are ready to make a purchase, they do think about you. Tin Lizzie's is a little bit more on the B2C side, but for those of you who live in Atlanta, we came up with a promotion for $1.85 margaritas once the bridge collapse was back up. And social proof on this one, they sold out of margaritas at every location that day. So it was really exciting to see just the virality of something like that, and the shares and the comments, and people saying, hey, I'm bringing my entire staff, just by coming up and you leveraging social media to stay in front of those customers. And then last example here, we work with a really great brand called Sifted, and they offer catered meal delivery to office space. So they are B2B, they're trying to attract new businesses, and we've been able to run really successful ads, and that hit specifically to the HR directors and the decision makers through Facebook and LinkedIn. And the majority of their business now is coming in from the social advertising and the social content creation. So there's so much value in just being present on these platforms. And for them, another great example is, if one of the employees at the company that they'd like to be doing businesses sees their page and understands the value and gets engaged with their story, they're far more likely to tell that HR professional, hey, have you heard of Sifted? And it could be a really neat option for our entire team. So a few ways to stand out, and just some general tips. Humanize the company. People want to do business with companies that they feel a genuine connection with. You don't want to be cold and stiff on social media. It again, should be a conversation. So social media gives you the opportunity to humanize the company, talk about the culture, and think about it as an extension of your in-person networking. So the more people that you can connect with and get in front of, online and offline, you just have a greater chance of increasing that through social. I think it's a great fact that 80% of B2B leads come in from LinkedIn. So it's certainly not a site that should be overlooked, especially if you are considering marketing. And then social media gives you an opportunity to establish your thought leadership in the space. And I think if you research your competitors, most likely most of them are not really leveraging social media to build that relationship, and it gives you an opportunity to be ahead of them in the market. A few other ideas. So advertising. Again, I know you guys are established advertisers, but especially on social media, pay to play, so boosting high performing posts. You can also run a clever hashtag campaign. So with that Tin Lizzie's example, we did an I-85 hashtag campaign. We joined, the local network. We hashtagged Atlanta, and so we joined larger conversations to get in front of more people. But be creative. So this also translates to your company. You could be creative with GIFs and videos and customer testimonials. And if your voice online is a little bit more clever and witty, throw in memes and jump on trending topics. It's, who knows, it may be National Cupcake Day today or Donut Day tomorrow. And if that's relevant for your business, or you can find a way to bring in donuts for the team and then take a picture about it and jump on that topic, it's a really great way to get creative. Asking questions is another one which we touched on a little bit, but I think the biggest value, and just speaking from experience with my business, is sharing the behind the scenes and the culture. People, the majority of, I think, of our team has actually come from social media platforms. They use social media as that proof of, are you a legitimate company? Are you credible? What is your culture? What is your culture? What is the behind the scenes? And from a B2B perspective, yes, you can drive business and establish that thought leadership, but just on a recruiting standpoint, there's so much value in being on social media for new employees as well. And then giveaways if you're B2C, or cross collaboration. So maybe you can partner with another business that attracts similar customers and offer some sort of promotion or holiday giveaway. Just a couple more examples of how you can leverage Instagram specifically for B2B. We work with a great company called Big Nerd Ranch. This was their feed on the left side prior to, and we're starting to establish more of a story on the right side. We're tying in their core colors, and we're showing a little bit of like their nerdy environment and how much fun they have. And it's we've incorporated videos and some GIFs, but hopefully you can see the difference in just the brand aesthetic and the story we're telling on that brand. And same with Sifted, another B2B company. On the left was their feed beforehand. And if someone was, searching their company and interested in working with them, I'm not quite sure if that would have translated into looks delicious, I want to order this for my team. Whereas now we're telling that story through beautiful content. We're tying in their voice to that as well. So in summary, really building relationships and not just focusing on those profiles and getting that content out. Make sure you're super responsive and authentic to your brand. And share your culture and share your raving fans and talk about the exciting customers you have. Share their testimonials that they've posted on Google on your social sites and tag them. And make sure you're always reporting and analyzing and testing because it doesn't happen overnight, and you're going to want to be receptive to what's working and what's not working. So if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email at info@ or shan@, or if you just want to have a conversation about social media, I would love to chat. Thanks.
All right, there is Chantel's contact information if you'd like to reach out to her, shan@imaginemediaconsulting.com, and she would be happy to answer questions for you as well. So the next Marketing Mob Talks is on February the 13th at 2 Eastern. We'll be sending out more information on that later. That is all that we have for today. So on behalf of the presenters and myself, we appreciate your attendance and attention, and we look forward to hosting you again in the future. Thanks.
All right.